I don't want to start with the Broncos and the Bills. I'm still in a deep state of depression,
but we got
like all the Bills fans. We got to talk about it a little bit. Amazing game. One of these crazy overtime games, back and forth. The Bills had their shot in overtime. We obviously had the interception heard around the world. I'll just say this. I think it was an interception. I know I'm very biased, and I know people want me to say that it was a catch by Brandon Cooks. I thought it was an interception. I thought it was the right call, but it's just crazy to me in all these games. Things keep coming up that are so controversial, things that we've never seen before, things that just cause so much bickering and arguments on Twitter and everything else. But the Bills, they didn't play well enough to win the game, unfortunately, and they did not.
I agree with you, Fitz. This one's tough, man. Obviously, at moments in this game, obviously Josh was awesome, and then there's times where he's reckless, and then, you have the turnovers, you have those things, and you're like, man, but the reality is like we talked about the week before, like that's how I want quarterbacks to live in these playoffs is like, I'm either winning it for us, but I'm definitely not going to be the reason I was hesitant and I was cautious and we didn't win because I could have took more shots. I could have been more aggressive. I don't think you can live with yourself in that way. But when you say, hey, I'm going to go out and try and win us the game, I think it's what Josh Allen does all year long. He's always that way. And it's crazy to look at this game because you're like, man, Buffalo really dominated, on offense outside of the turnovers, Fitz. And I think that's what really gets you frustrated is that, man, if they just take care of the football a little bit, this is probably an easy win for them because they really did handle, again, a Broncos defense that, was really good all year, but late in the year has had its struggles.
Yeah, and it's funny. I just kept hearing, but they didn't punt. Well, yeah, they turned the ball over 5 times.
When you turn it over 5 times, it's going to be hard to punt.
Yeah, you don't have to punt because you're giving the ball away, but I actually just kind of want to move forward from the game because it is sad. It's sad to think of. It's funny if they win that game, they still cover up some of the warts that they have with this roster and the way it's constructed, but they don't. They lose, and Shawn McDermott, we learn, gets fired. As he mentioned in his statement, he poured his heart and soul into making this team a Super Bowl team. They didn't get there, but it's been really cool when you have a guy that gets fired and then you see the outpouring of support from his former players on his leadership and the impact that he made in their lives. I think that's the sign of a great head coach. Yep. I think it's important for everybody to realize and remember, and Bills fans certainly remember this, the Bills had a 17-year playoff drought before he got there. And then in 9 seasons with the Bills, they go to the playoffs 8 times. He's won 5 consecutive, they won 5 consecutive division titles. Obviously did not win it against the Patriots this year, but he understood the people of Buffalo.
Yep.
He was a high class, high character guy. But at first the expectations were, we got to get this team back to the playoffs. And then over the course of his 9-year tenure there, expectations shifted. Yep. And he was a lot of that. The expectation now is Super Bowl or it's a letdown. And unfortunately, it felt like the last few years, they were getting further away from that than closer. I don't know if you think that as well, but I just wanted to make sure we took a minute here to recognize how great of a coach Shawn McDermott has been. I think, when we saw Harbaugh get fired, you knew he was going to be a coach right away somewhere else. When we saw Stefanski get fired, I think we saw the same thing, or we thought the same thing. And now this is going to be the same thing with McDermott. He needs to be a head coach again in this cycle. He's that qualified. He's one of the winningest coaches in the last 9 years. If you're the Raiders or if you're the Cardinals, I think we seriously got to be thinking about Sean McDermott, because what does he do? He's going to reset your culture. He's going to provide stability, and he's going to win a lot of football games with whoever he decides to be the head coach of.
Yeah, I think to your point, it's like, let's not forget as a Buffalo Bills fan or anybody that really, whatever your expectations are for the Buffalo Bills and how successful you think they should be, let's not forget who set that standard. And I think that's what you're saying. As Sean McDermott came in, he took over this program. I thought it was cool, Fitz. It's not just even former players of his, to see some of the Bills legends reach out and on social media and everything else and say, hey, man, the first thing this dude did was get us around in a room together and ask us as legends and Buffalo Bills history, like, hey, how do we get back to what Buffalo Bills football should be? How do we create this thing, the culture and everything else, to where you guys have pride in it and we're playing at the level of football we want to? Like, he even brought those guys in and embraced them and made them a part of how this place was going to go forward under his leadership. So when you think of two guys between Josh Allen and himself who wear and shoulder most of this, I mean, Josh Allen, obviously not his best playoff game that we've seen him have in over the year stretch here of them trying to get to that Super Bowl, still was unbelievable in moments in this game. Everything didn't work out for him at all times. Sean McDermott, listen, the reality is this guy's been unbelievable in his time as the head coach. Did he get to the big one? Did he win the championship, the trophy? No, but I just think sometimes we lose sight of how freaking hard that is. Like, all the things that have to go right for you getting in that moment to win those games. Like Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, how many times were they in their way? An unbelievable team in NFL history that they had to go through on their side to get to that opportunity. I just think sometimes the timing's not what it's supposed to be. And inevitably you see these coaches who are elite and rare, they go find their opportunity. Think of what Andy Reid was before he became the Chiefs coach. He was honestly a lot of what the Sean McDermott era was, right? Like, think of that. Like Sean McDermott, like how many times they've been in the big moments and just hadn't been able to find it. And Andy Reid was really moved on from Philly because it was like, hey, it just isn't going to work here. I mean, could this be an opportunity where we see Sean McDermott go to something like that? Because he's obviously an amazing head coach. You see the players, their love, their appreciation for who he is and what he meant to them. And then now Buffalo's got the tough task of figuring out who's the guy that's next and who is it that's going to come in and fill that role.
Who is the guy that's next? And just to recap, this year, they knew going into the year, they tried to patch together a wide receiver room, right? I mean, they drafted Keon Coleman and thought his development would be more than it is. Curtis Samuel was signed, Joshua Palmer, Elijah Moore, and it just didn't work out through injuries and other things. And then the big thing, and a lot of Bills fans are questioning Brandon Beane right now, and like, why is Sean gone and why is Brandon still there? And why did Brandon receive a promotion? If you look at what he did this offseason, aside from that receiver room and trying to patch it together and not working out, I think we saw with the draft, like they had to address the defense, right? There were some deficiencies on their defense heading into the season, especially up front. So what do? They re-sign Rousseau to an extension. They bring in Joey Bosa, which just, I don't think that he was the difference maker that they thought he was going to be. Your guy, Mike, how do you say his name? Michael Hoyt. Larry Hoyt and Joby they brought in. And then just spending their first 5 draft picks on defensive guys. None of that really came to fruition right here. And so it was tough to watch and making all these decisions, and each one for whatever different reason, whether it was sleeping in and not being able to wake up to your alarm or getting injured or just maybe having a bit of a fall off from the year before. Obviously, some guys had some suspensions. All those offseason moves did not really help the Bills this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's the challenge. I mean, I always, obviously we've had Brandon being on the podcast, great dude. It's just tough for me anytime, especially when guys come in together and kind of have a relationship. Anytime you separate the head coach and the GM, because I just think of those relationships and how important they are, that they're all on the same page. There's very few places in the NFL where you really say, hey, there's this GM who's so dynamic and special that he doesn't even really need, the head coach to be really elite and special with him, and the sense of how a team sustains their success. Very rare. I mean, I look at the Rams, places I've experienced like Les Snead and Sean, and how it's literally every decision feels mutual between the two. And like we ride this thing out together. I think it's a tough dynamic for fans and for everybody when you see all of a sudden there's split responsibility there. So it makes you feel like, especially with where those two guys' backgrounds and everything else, it makes you feel like there's some, tension or relationship struggle there for there to be a separation really in this way. It feels like they just didn't see eye to eye on the future and maybe the present of like really the talent level of this team and maybe what they want out of this football team and where it should be in this moment. There clearly wasn't an agreement there. And I think that's a lot to do with this, is that it feels like a little bit over the last couple of years, you said this, you kind of hinted at this, like it feels a little stuck. It feels a little like, hey, we're not really seeing a change in this roster and team and the level that we feel like, yes, Sean McDermott raised the standard, but what's the next jump? And obviously, Bill's ownership and Brandon Beane, given that promotion, made the decision that the jump comes from, a new person who's standing in front of the room each and every week and representing that team. Because I think sometimes we get a little lost in that GMs really don't have a lot of like personal presence in the locker room, in the meetings, any of that. Like player, you wouldn't say that that's somebody you ever hear from. That's somebody that's kind of in a leadership front office position. But that head coach is the person standing in front of the guys every week. He's the guy giving them their inspiration, their marching orders, the direction of where this franchise is going, the identity of who we're going to be. And obviously Buffalo Bills leadership in the front office decided that they want that to be a different person.
Yeah. And look, Brandon Beane can evaluate talent. You look to the 2022 draft class, missed on Kyer Elam, right? But they got James Cook in the second round. They got Terrell Bernard in the third round. They got Khalil Shakir in the fifth round. They got Christian Benford in the sixth round. So, like, there is a history there of being able to hit on some of these guys. And what the Bills have done a great job of is they see some of these guys as pillars of their team. So they've rewarded their own. They've kept some of these good players around. And I think that's what's made them so good the last few years is the culture that's been established. It's a tight team. They love playing with each other. They love playing for each other. And that's why when you see Josh Allen take the podium and he's upset as he is, that's when you see even our guy Deion Dawkins in the locker room hearing about how Josh feels like he let the team down and how emotional he gets. This is still the ultimate team sport, and they have a great locker room. They love each other. They play very well together, and so that part has been great. They just haven't been able to get over the hump, and I think the biggest thing that the McDermott decision was just because expectations have shifted, and the Super Bowl hasn't happened, and so they just felt like you said, being stuck in the mud, they need to go somewhere else. So where do they go, right? And I don't know. My take on this whole thing is they need a veteran coach that's going to preach accountability. And somebody who's going to be very demanding of Josh. And I think I made the point during the Jacksonville playoff game that Josh, his play and everything he did pre-snap was as good as it had been all year. And I just feel like in general, overall this year, if I'm looking at something where I say, gosh, maybe Josh took a step back this year, it was the consistency of that pre-snap command and wizardry. And that's something that has to be demanded out of him every day. So I think the hard part for me is, what is everybody doing now? They're going young. They want the next big, offensive play caller. Sean McVay at this point, I was going to say 2.0, but at this point it's like, 14.0, trying to figure out who the next young Sean McVay is going to be. The problem is, and why I think they need a veteran coach, somebody with a little bit more of an iron fist, is if you bring in a young, cool, hip head coach, he's going to be buddies with Josh. He's going to suck up to Josh. He's going to go golfing with Josh. It's not what he needs. It's not what's best for his career. What's best for his career is he has somebody that comes in and pushes him every single day, because there is another level that Josh can get to, especially mentally, but he has to be coached hard. And if you bring in a young guy, I just don't see it happening. I see him wanting to be his friend more than his coach. And so we'll see what happens. There aren't a lot of names out there. I don't know where they go with, but that's what I would want to see, is a veteran coach that's going to have accountability, and he's going to be a tough coach on these players.
Yeah, because to your point, a young coach coming in, you got an MVP stud quarterback, and you got a first-round pick who can't wake up when his alarm goes off and show up to meetings on time. Like, that's a tough. People think that's easy to deal with. That is, those locker room dynamics like that are difficult for a young coach, because you're learning on the fly. I mean, you brought up Sean McVay, but the reality is, even Sean would tell you, when you're 30 years old or you're 33 years old, whatever it may be, and you're trying to do this job, you don't know what you don't know. And so you're learning on the fly things of how I would have handled that differently. What leadership looks like in these situations. I don't know. Sometimes I'm just guessing at the answer. And then I got to do a rehash of like how maybe I could have handled that better and differently. Like you haven't been through those moments, so you have no idea what to do. You're just going to lean on as many people as you can to help you with those answers. And so if you do go young, I think you have to have, like what we've seen work, a very veteran defensive coordinator come in that you could lean on, that's been a head coach maybe or has experience in those roles. But here's the problem, Fitz. There's so many damn openings. I don't know who anybody's saying their coordinator is going to be that's going to become a head coach, because every single good coordinator that's out there is in play for a head coach position at this point. So I think that's going to be part of the challenge too. And you're a little late if you're Buffalo. Like, I don't think there's a rush, but you're a little late. There's some teams already grabbing people, as we've seen with the Titans grabbing Robert Saleh today. I mean, I think that it's one of those things that you're a little behind and you're playing catch up a little bit, because there's going to be a lot of guys that have already been hired in this cycle.
Yeah. And I didn't mind what Rex Ryan said, which I know is crazy, but Belichick with Dable as the OC.
Wouldn't that be the place Bill would love to come back to, though, just to go stick it to the Patriots?
Oh, he would love it. Playing against Vrabes twice a year.